Hey everybody, it's Mike with Seeds and Arrows Frontier. So right now we're at the middle of March. This is the part 2 of Beekeeping Basics with Barry Hughes and Growing Roots Farms on his YouTube channel. Go over there and check him out and give him a like and subscribe. If you're one of my subscribers, you know, we're just trying to boost each other's channels and help each other out. But also, he's got a lot of good, interesting things about, you know, if you're wanting to get out of the homestead, and that's basically what all this is about, is to become more self-sufficient, not depending on the government, not depending on, you know, the grocery stores and food, trying to get away from that as much as possible. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into the video here. This is part 2 of the Beekeeping Basics. Okay, so something else that we were doing, if you can see the smoke coming up here. So I actually had, so from those wax cappings that I was saying that you can cut off from the frames, I've actually brought some wax that we're going to coat a couple of these frames in here. So we're going to go ahead and do that real quick. And what I have here is basically like a paint roller. Yeah, if you want your frames, you want to go ahead and do them. So basically what I did was melted down some of the wax, and it's nice and hot. So, and then basically when you get these, they already got a little bit of wax on here, but we're going to put a little more wax on here just to make sure that the bees are happy with that. More wax is always better.
Yeah, like you can feel the wax build up on this whole kit. It has been like dipped in wax.
But see, and you can see that, and what will happen is the bees will actually transfer this wax around and use it where they see fit. Now what happens is like a lot of people, when they get this, they're like, oh, it's like they don't put more wax on here.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Let me show it here.
Yeah.
So we're not putting too much. Like we're not filling up every crevice, I guess you would say. Okay, we're just kind of lightly putting a coat on there.
Right. And so what that does is just gives the bees extra wax. Now the thing with wax, and we get some there on the floor there. Sorry
That's
about
okay.
that.
This
It
is a
takes.
workshop.
Yeah, there you go. Nice. It takes the bees to draw out a frame of a deep frame. It takes the bees approximately 11 pounds of honey. So they got to consume 11 pounds of honey to draw out one frame.
Okay, so this one's good?
Yep.
All right.
Bring another one out.
Here. And we're just going to start, we're going to do it in
There you go.
order here.
Just do them in order there.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is basically getting...
You can set it here. I can work on some of these.
Oh, let me get that other, I saw there's on the other side there's a little bit of debris on there.
Oh, yeah.
So just use that horse brush.
I
got it right here.
Yeah.
Alright.
So just putting a little bit of extra wax, even though there's some wax on here.
Right.
Just putting a little bit of extra wax on helps out.
It does. And so people will be like, when they first get these hives, what they end up doing is they don't know this trick, and they're all like, well, my bees are like building the comb off of the wax foundation rather than drawing out the cells that are on here. And it's like, what am I doing wrong? And it's like, well, the bees don't necessarily like plastic, which is why some people are like, no, I don't use plastic because, you know, the bees don't like it. Well, if you know the tricks of the trade, you at least got to get the wax on there to get them started, and then that will encourage them. Oh, hey, other bees have already been putting wax on here, so this is what.
So it's kind of fooling them.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then they'll start to draw that out.
Was that a decent bit?
That's really good.
Okay.
Yep. So
And we're kind of jumping into this right now because the wax is
The
hot.
wax was hot.
Yeah, and so it just, you know, it can pretty much get hard really quick. So you just want to basically do this while it's warm, and we're kind of trying to get it on video while we got it. So rocking and rolling. But see, wax is also another great thing that the bees give us too, because I mean, you can do this with the wax, and you can do candles and other things with the beeswax. I like the way the beeswax smells. I think it smells really good.
It does smell good.
It's got its own, you know, scent to it.
It's not taking too long.
No, not at all. I'm actually gonna bring my video camera in here just to kind of show a close-up of what you got going on there. All right.
I'll flip it here to the other side. I'm not putting it on every piece perfectly. I'm just kind of sloppily, I guess, in a sense, just kind of throwing it on there to get a little bit of
there you go
wax buildup. You can see where it's drying. You can see where it's. You can see it a lot clearer there.
Right. And the great thing is, once they start to draw these frames out, you'll have like your better frames, and if you don't like the way that they are, then you can scrape the plastic and then start over. But at that point in time, you'll know what you like, and you can actually from there start to build up your frame collection to where once they start to draw these frames out, you can usually use them. I mean, there's some people that only use them for 3-4 years, but then you can use them for, you know, up to 10 years, or as long as, you know, the frame will hold together, which is, you know, probably about 5 or 6 years is on average is what I've been finding out.
For one of these to hold together.
Yeah, but the good thing about it is like you build up every year. So what I was telling you about before is it takes the bees approximately 11 pounds of honey to draw out a complete frame. So you think about that, it's 11 pounds of honey that you could have like had stored that you would be able to extract. But since they're drawing out the frame, they're having to use that to make the wax.
Okay.
So the more frames that you can save from the previous year with that, you know, basically are not damaged, and you can reuse, and then they can basically have those cells to store honey in. That's less work that they have to do to build those up. So that's more honey that they're not having to use for wax that they can actually use to store.
So it's more efficiency.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
I hate painting, but this isn't too bad.
No, it's I enjoy it. I think it's pretty cool to kind of like watch the cells kind of build up, and what's even more fun is like watching the bees, how they actually react to it and draw it out. And you'll see, oh, they got this part drawn out today, and then you come back tomorrow and the whole thing's done, and you're like, wow. So like on the bigger hives, you can usually take them 3 or 4 days to draw out one frame. Just depending on obviously the time of year,
and so, just what's all pollinated and
exactly, yep,
what's in bloom.
Right. So usually your first year beekeeping, you're not looking at getting any honey.
Yeah.
You're just basically building up the colony.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're gonna be getting into. Try to do some swarm traps, and then I got some bees that we're going to try to make queens from and get Barry started over here.
Now is that the nuke? Is that a
So when we make new queens, we'll split off a portion of the bees from the colony and then make a nuke.
okay?
And then so then that way we'll have like frames that we can already have that are already drawn, and she already has. Usually she'll already start laying in the nuke, the eggs, so that way the colony's ready to go as soon as you get it.
That's pretty cool.
So the other thing about this box right here, maybe you can kind of see right here on the sides that this has actually been dipped in wax.
Yeah.
And so it actually is water, waterproof up to an extent, and then I guess the more time it stays out in the hot sun, it'll wear off kind of like a coat of paint, or some type of weathering water resistant paint that you want to put on there. But I mean, it does help protect the wood and everything. It's amazing, that and it has the wax smell that the bees like, so it's already going to attract them to the box.
Well, and I don't have to worry about painting this, right?
Right.
So
Yep.
it's already waxed. I don't have to paint it.
And Eric very professionally did that really quickly.
Slap it on here.
So now while he's going over that and finishing that, I'm going to go over a couple of other things. We have right here, this is what I was telling you about. If the wax gets old and you need to scrape this, the wax off of the frame and start over, you basically just use this to, like a shovel, and then just scrape that wax off. You want to save that wax, basically how I did for this, that you can actually, even though it's no longer viable for the frame, you can save that wax, melt it, and then put it on the frame, put it on the frames like this to where they can start over.
And then like you were just saying, the wax that's on the buildup on the outside of these eventually deteriorates. You could just
wax
paint.
it.
You could just paint.
You just wax it back on there.
Put wax right back on.
So next we'll have up here, so this is going to be a queen cage, basically what you want to capture a queen in. And so when you get into multiple hives, what you're going to realize really quickly is that the bees' ultimate goal is to make honey and then produce more hives. So they want more bees. So if you don't give them a sufficient amount of space, what happens when your family gets big and full, you need to either move or you need to downsize the space. So the bees, if the queen cannot lay a certain amount of eggs, and she's needing at least to lay about 1,500 eggs a day.
Wow.
Baby bees, once they're laid, the eggs are laid to the point in time that they hatch out, 21 days. So Langstroth, in that science, has created the 10-frame box. So basically, if you think about it, every 21 days you have new bees hatching out. So then the queen will go back and relay eggs in the new cells that are hatched out. Now what happens during the honey flow is, and this is where the swarms come into play, what happens during the honey flow is all those extra cells that she was able to lay in get filled up with honey. It's called a thing called honey bound. So then what happens is it turns into, we don't have enough space, we need to move. So then the queen, the rest of the bees basically tell the queen that, hey, we need to leave because there's not enough space here. So what ends up happening is they create queen cells. And those new queen cells will be baby queens. And so the workers will basically tell the queen, or one way or another, something very interesting, and I'm trying to do studies on this. I've actually had a nuke, like a one frame box, and brought a frame of eggs over. Those frame of eggs I put on that one frame, or the 10 frame box, and came back, there was no queen in there, it was just bees. And so they need like 2 to 3 day old eggs to make a queen, to make good queens, you know, because they give them more nutrients that they do the regular bees.
Okay.
Now the queens usually can hatch out within 16 days, and then they have like the whole mating flight that they have to go, and so about 30 days for a queen to start laying, to where she's a mated queen, and then she can start laying eggs. In that time process, when I put those eggs in the frame, the rest of the hive had honey in there, and so they were bringing in honey and everything, but they needed a queen. They knew that. So what they ended up doing was having those eggs, and instead of drawing the eggs, the cell out where the egg was laid in, I noticed that I started getting queen cells over here on these other frames. They were literally picking, and some people say that they can't do this, but I know this to be true, that they were literally taking the eggs, viable larvae, or they say larvae.
Larvae.
Larvae, it's French.
We're
Fragile.
we got
French
fancy,
bees.
fancy bees.
But they took those eggs out, or larvae, and brought them over here and put them in the queen cells over here and drew those queen cells out. I was kind of flabbergasted about that, because, and then I saw a couple of other posts, people saying, no, you probably had a queen in there, you didn't know it. I know that there was no queen in this hive. And it was like basically that they were queenless for like a whole week. So because I specifically removed the queen, and then removed all of any signs that there were any other queen cells in there, checked every frame front and back, and like intentionally brought in the eggs from one of my great queen producers, and put her in there, and it was a swarm that I caught, and so she just had really good genetics. So those were the genetics that I wanted, and they started putting queen cells in the other one. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah,
they know what they like, and they are very smart and do their own things. But this is a queen capture cage. So what happens is like if you find multiple queens in here and you need to like move it, and you don't have anything to a place to put her, you can kind of like capture her, pinch her by the wings, and you put her in here, and then slide this, and she's in her queen capture cage. So this one right here is if, for beginners, I don't mark my queens anymore, just because I've killed a couple of them by marking them. The bees, it was a perfectly good queen. She was laying well, and as soon as I marked her with the non-toxic tape, they killed her.
Oh.
So I was like, what the heck?
So stop doing that.
So the mark is the little dot on the back of the queen that some people do, and then they have like for different seasons or different years, it'll be a different color. And so you can basically put them in here. This is a little foam that you put the queen in there, and then it has little holes right here that you can dab the mark on the back and then let it dry. And so I let it dry, and then some hives I've had it to where the queen, they accept her, and obviously people do it and have success with it. But I've lost like, I want to say 2 or 3 colonies that way.
Really?
And so I just stopped doing it.
Okay.
And so I've gotten better. The more you do this, the more you kind of understand the queen's going to be where the eggs are. And so you can just basically, okay, the honey frames, the queen's not going to be on the honey frames. That's basically all for the workers. Okay, and then so the queen's usually going to be in the center. Now if you got 2 boxes, you're going to have eggs in the bottom, you're going to have eggs in the middle, unless you have the queen excluder on. But usually if you have the queen excluder on, you know she's down here in the bottom box somewhere. So you kind of like roughly, now there's sometimes that I get in there that you can't find the queen. Not a big deal. As long as you're seeing like little small rice in the cells, those are going to be like your 2-day old eggs. Once they lay down, that means it's probably a 2-day-old egg. But if they're sticking straight up, that means it's been laid within the past 24 hours.
Okay.
So you know that the queen's in there. Okay, and that's basically all you need to do is just confirm that there is a queen in there. Now, during the springtime, you want to make sure you go through that they have enough area in here, because you don't want your bees to swarm. But that's basically what they're trying to build up to. So what happens is like beginners, you don't have enough boxes to give them enough space. So then what's going to happen is you'll probably get one that swarms out if you don't add more space on top of it.
Okay.
Okay. But
Would-
if that happens, I'll bring one of my boxes
Would you
over.
go on top, or would you just get another one of these beside it?
So that's what you can do. If you intentionally want to grow your bee colony, then you can keep them in here and then just buy another box yourself, and then make what they call a split. And then you just take a couple of frames from this hive right here and bring them over, and then put them in that other box, and then they start a new colony.
Okay.
And it's great, just to further your beekeeping. But this will use as a queen marker if you need to mark them, and then go from there. And this right here is queen clip. One thing you do have to, these are good for like if you got a queen that's on a frame, or if you catch a swarm. The swarm is all over the place, and you find a queen, you can put her in here real quick. The only thing that I've noticed with some, like virgin queens, they can get out of here because they're really small and slender.
Okay.
They haven't had they haven't been mated to where they have like the big abdomens that the mated queens will have. And so the mated queens, these are, generally speaking, for the majority of the mated queens, I have had a mated queen get out of there. But what I've done was, you can see like the pieces of plastic, they kind of rest on each other.
Yeah.
What I've done is actually taken mine and shaved down these sides right here to where they close, this will close a little bit thinner.
Okay.
Because I've had it to where I'm like, yes, got the queen, put her in here, and she's like flying around, and then all of a sudden she flies
Really?
off.
Let me see that. So he's just talking about that small gap right there. So shaving it down just a little bit to close that gap in.
Yep, on the
That
side,
gap there.
the sides where it's clamping down.
Yeah, kind of hits right here. Yeah, shaving it down.
So, and so this right here, this is, I will just go ahead and recommend you just throw this away.
Okay.
Okay, so this is beetle trap. Now you don't necessarily have to throw it away, but I've found that if you actually have the Swiffer sheets, get unscented like fabric Swiffer sheets, and put those on top of your frames. Now what that's going to do is you're going to find that there's specific beetles which they call like the hive beetles, and what they do is they smell the honey in here, and they will come in here and they will start. Now if you get a strong colony, the bees will basically corral them, push them to one area. What happens is if you have the Swiffer sheets up here, they like the dark area, but they'll come up here and then their legs will get stuck. They have barbs on their legs, and so the Swiffer sheet clings
it
onto
gets
those,
caught on.
and then they can't move.
Okay.
This is same idea. It's got a slit up here, and you put like vegetable oil down in here, and it goes on your frame, and it slides right in here. And then what basically happens is the bees will push the beetles into this right here.
You can get a close up. Even though he's saying probably not go with this method.
And I'm going to tell you
I
why
still
here in
want
a
to show
second.
it. All right. So why wouldn't you use that then?
So what happens is like when you have the, so you kind of see, if you have this filled with vegetable oil, like right here, see how easy it is to, it just stays on here, so it's easy to pop off. What the bees end up doing is gluing this down to the board.
Oh.
So it becomes one. So then you basically got to move this whole frame out with that on there
To be able to get that.
to be able to, and then you got to dump the oil out. Then what happens is it becomes a mess, and that oil, if it gets on the bees, it coats the bees and it kills the bees.
Okay.
So
That's a good reason why.
and so then you either got to remove this off of here to fill it back up with vegetable oil, it just becomes a mess.
Okay.
The Swiffer sheet,
Swiffer sheets sound a lot easier.
you just basically put the Swiffer sheets on top,
Lay them on top.
and the beetles crawl in there, and then you take the Swiffer sheet, throw that away, put a new one on.
Do you put Swiffer sheets over just a section?
You just
Or-
you just put like one Swiffer sheet per hive,
Per
and I
hive.
just probably put it in the middle, and the bees know that will track. I think the bees know, they're pretty smart, but they will know that, hey, the beetles, once you corral them to that, they can't get free.
Go. Okay.
Yeah, so
So just like one sheet per hive.
yeah, I was to say one sheet per hive.
And it
now,
doesn't matter if it's middle or out on the
unless
sides.
I would say unless it doesn't.
Okay.
But you'll notice like each hive is different, and each colony is different. So you'll notice like when you open this up, if there's beetles in there, they're going to be back over here in this corner. They're going to be up here, or you'll see where the bees are corralling them to, and that's
Okay.
usually where I'll end up putting the Swiffer sheet.
Okay.
So, and then lo and behold, this is your gloves. They actually come up your arm, and then they have elastic in the so that way the bees can't crawl up into your arm, which is beneficial. So you don't want them.
I've had them before.
You'd be doing the bee
We're-
dance.
I've done it before. I've been working in hay and putting hay in a loft.
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
go up my pants.
Yep, yeah, they can go up your pants.
Oh,
and
it's
it's
awful.
horrible.
Awful.
So these are just basically little fire starters
Mhm.
that you can start the.
Then they
the
go
smoker.
in the smoker, right?
Yeah. So the thing that I've learned the cheaper way, being on the homestead, you got a lot of hay.
Yeah.
Just when it's dry out, just mow up some hay or whatever, and then I just put that in a garbage bag, and I just keep that in the garage to when, because sometimes you'll get out there, like, you don't really want to get into the hive when it's been raining, but sometimes, you get out there a day after and everything's just been drenched on,
Mm-hmm.
and then so it's wet. So dry hay, and then you can use that to start your smoker with.
Okay.
But these are good to just
that-
light these and then just drop one in there with the hay, and it'll keep it going.
How many of these do you use at
Just
a
use a
time?
cup. Well, with the hay, you just use a couple of them,
Okay. Just a
So-
couple of them.
and it's pretty cool. This actually comes with other things that maybe can basically offer in
Here.
their
I'll
setups.
do a close up on that there and over here. It's just the kit that I'd gotten.
So now this one is interesting. So the main thing that I can figure, and this is like a little tool, it's like a little spinning tool,
Little
spur on it. So this one is like for a particular type of frame that you want to use that has the wires going
yeah.
down.
Yeah, just hold. Yeah.
And it
see
holds the
wires.
wires. So then you basically run this along the edge. It's kind of like a screen when you're putting in the screen.
Yeah, yeah.
along there, and
you put the
little rubber gasket
Yeah, you push
going
it
around
down.
it, and then it just like pushes it down in there. So if you're going that route, they
Okay.
just like to add extra things in there. But and then
But
that's
that's
basically
but that's
it.
not necessarily for this design.
Not for this. Not for the plastic foundations.
Okay.
So got any questions about it?
Oh, I'm sure I've got.
Oh, wait, you will once you get
yeah,
there.
yeah. You get
Anything
into
about
it.
the setup?
No, pretty happy. Oh, this one here.
The queen excluder, yeah. Bring that back over here. Let's see that.
So so you call this a queen excluder?
Right.
What's the purpose of it? How does it work?
So this is the queen excluder. So what you want to do, just like the little queen trap. Where was that little
The
clip?
little yellow one. You want this one?
By design. Well, no, the clip.
Oh.
Where's that? Anyways, the spacing
Oh,
is
right here.
designed that.
This one here.
There you go, right here. So it's got like little rivets in here. That's the spacing that the queen can't get through. So this basically goes over the whole hive. So you keep the queen down here in the bottom. What this does is when you get into honey production, you're going to have all your frames up here, if you don't have this on here, some beekeepers are like, no, I don't like using the queen excluders for whatever reason. They say the bees traveling up through here, it rubs on their bodies, and then it can shorten the life of your bees. They do just fine with it.
Okay.
I prefer the metal ones versus the plastic ones. The plastic ones, obviously, over time are just going to break and become brittle. But that's what this is that the queen can't fit through these. A mated queen, some of the virgin queens, they may be able to fit through this. But you can lay this down, you give her her own box down here. The bees quickly realize that the queen can't move up here. So then they will start to put the honey up above the queen.
Okay.
And then allow her to lay down here. Unless they become honey bound, then they will start to fill in these.
So the brood will be
yep,
down here.
Exactly.
And the honey will be up here.
And what is great about this is that this is the reason why I started doing queen excluders, is because you don't got to worry about baby bees being in your honey.
In the honey. That makes sense.
So when you spin that all out, you know it's either honey or going to probably be a little bit of pollen, but most of the time they will put the pollen around the baby bees.
So correct me if I'm wrong here. Once again, complete novice.
Sure.
If I'm thinking of, I want a few. I want to start with maybe a few boxes.
Right.
What you just said kind of makes sense of why I would want to choose maybe a medium or something going vertical.
Right.
So that you put the queen excluder on, your brood's down here, your
Right.
honey's here.
Yep.
And you're going vertical. Whereas if I just go with another box like this sitting beside it and I'm not going vertical, then I'm dealing with the brood and the honey all
Exactly.
together.
Yep.
And it's just more work to separate.
Right. Exactly. Yep. So, and that's the other thing. You got like the horizontal hives that are basically doing this same method, but they're just coming out long ways versus stacking on top.
Okay.
Now, the reason why I like to stack on top is because if you get a really good honey flow and you could stack as many boxes on top of that one hive as long as you got a level foundation. That's why you want to make sure that the bottom is level as can be. Versus if you have a long horizontal hive, you can only go to the end of that horizontal hive, and then usually they make them probably 2-3 boxes long, to where once you're past that frame capacity, unless you have a design to where you can actually stack these boxes on top of it, but then you're having to leave the lid open.
Okay.
So that's the thing with the horizontal hives. This, I mean, I've actually seen some hives to where they can stack them 8-9 boxes tall
So it
during a
doesn't-
really good flow.
So it really doesn't matter. You can just keep adding
Exactly.
to it. Okay.
So it's just as many boxes as you feel like you want to lift, and then
I've got teenage boys.
yeah, there you go. You got the teenage boy. Hey, get over here, move this box. So, but yeah, or if you want to split the boxes off, then you can just break them off and then put them over to the side or whatever. But yeah, literally during a really good, like it seems to be cycling around Kentucky, and that's where we're at. Probably about every 3 to 4 years, you'll get like a really good like honey flow, to where it's just like everything's blooming perfectly, the weather's perfect, and then the bees, as much room as they have, they will continue to bring that in. So that's what I'm saying. It's like if you have drawn out frames, that's gold in the bee world, because you could just keep adding more frames on there. And the great thing about it is, so when you get into spinning out honey, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like they're still packing in honey and all these frames are already capped. Take that box off and then spin it out and then put it back on. Now the problem with that is that capped honey makes more honey, and it's kind of weird to think about that philosophy, but what you can actually do is you checkerboard in new frames with the old frames, and the bees don't like empty space next to their honey, so it encourages them to fill that frame faster than to have empty honey. Like if you have a box that's completely empty that you just throw on top, then versus a box that already has like frames with honey in it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can take every other frame, spin it out, and then give them back to the bees, and then checkerboard in a couple of empty frames.
Okay.
Then they will draw that out and cap it a lot faster than what they would if it was just all completely empty frames.
So based on that, because you're talking about taking one of them out and checkerboarding them,
Mm-hmm.
would it be better to take, because this is a large or a deep, would it be better to have another large or deep so that they're interchangeable?
Now, see, that's where you're starting to get into versus like, oh, I'm just going to have a single deep on the bottom
And then mediums.
and then the mediums. So that's where a lot of beekeepers have come into, like they'll at least have 2 deep boxes
Okay.
so that they can interchange those out, and then the third one or subsequent ones will be all like medium or smalls.
Okay. So lighter, easier to work with
Right.
up at top.
Yeah.
In my head, it kind of makes sense to have two larges and then 2 medium,
Right.
so that then you can interchange between those 2.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Just trying to get an idea on kind of where I'm projecting to go.
Yep.
Okay.
So I think that's going to close out this video, but as always, thanks for watching. Stay safe, make each day count, and God bless.
All right. You'll have a good one.